How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well, very well.
Good. Yeah.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, everybody. My name is Michall Laymon. I am the Global Program Manager for Competitive Strategy at SUSE.
Great to meet you, McCall.
Nice to meet you.
My name's Dan Mroz. I am Chief Cloud Strategist here at Dell Technologies, and we are coming live. So if you think we're recording this prior to, we are not.
Correct. There is no edit.
So a quick thanks to the Dell Technologies Customer Solution Center here in Round Rock. They are hosting us. And so if you ever have a need for any type of proof of concept, this is all about helping customers do those proof of concepts, complex or not. And of course, SUSE is one of the many partners that we can host here in the Solution Center.
Absolutely. Actually, when I came in today, I saw a group that was, getting their proof of concept, and it was just really cool to kind of get to see behind the scenes what Dell is capable of.
Right on. Awesome.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, you and your team work very closely with customers.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you guys seeing in the field?
Yeah, I think I would break it into two different things. I think from a business perspective and then a technical perspective. I think we can't ignore what's going on in the political realm these days. The whole economic aspect of things. Artificial intelligence is absolutely huge as well. And I think, from a slightly technical perspective, we're looking at, IT and the business side is folks are looking at, as this is all about, this session is all about, is like cost cutting, because hypervisor is a big conversation right now. I won't mention any names, but it's definitely coming up more and more and more. From a SUSE perspective, how about you?
So, we're really seeing a lot of the same things. A lot of conversations around AI, but also we're getting more of like the security questions around it. Like where is my data going? Who's holding on to it? What are they doing with it? And so we're really trying to work to solve those problems for the customer. Also, vendor lock-in is a huge one.
Yeah.
When you're talking to customers and they are wanting to modernize or move over to new technology, we're constantly seeing people that are stuck. They're locked into whatever stack that they've purchased, and they just don't really have that ability to unplug one piece and put in a new piece. And then obviously open source.
Yeah, of course.
Still a hot topic today. I think it's really been interesting. So I've been at SUSE now for a little over 2 years, and it's really interesting to have conversations about open source just out in the field, because you've got people who get it, who love it, who are obsessed with it. And then you have the people who still don't understand, despite Linux being a part of our entire world for, over 30 years now.
Long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I agree. I guess, can I shift gears to slightly technical?
Yeah,
side as well?
absolutely. Let's do it.
I think there's the business side of it and there's a technical side. And I think the more and more that my observations in talking with a lot of folks is, yes, the hypervisor alternative is a big one, but a lot of these problems originate from the business. IT, I think in years past, they built the fiefdom and then the company had to live within it. I think SaaS changed a lot of that. I think the precipice of, like you had mentioned, choice, controlling cost is driving a lot of these decisions from a business perspective. And then from an AI perspective, it's also being driven from, how do I monetize my data? How do I streamline operations? Even at Dell Technologies, we're feeling it hardcore. We're always customer zero. So it's how do we harness this and what are the use cases? For us, it's been, having a sales chat capability to be able to get real-time action or next best action from our support situations. But I think, if I had to really look at it from a kind of a hardware perspective that ties back into the business challenges and where the business wants to go, IT is always struggling with how do I meet the needs of the business constantly. And so, to your point, I'm seeing less folks interested from a technical perspective, from a hardware perspective, be interested in an engineered solution and saying, you know what, I don't necessarily care what's behind the scenes. I want to offer choice, and I want less lock-in, and I want flexibility in many ways. So I see folks saying, you know what, I like the cloud, and the cloud's a big part of their business. They're placing workloads in the cloud too, but how do I take a holistic view of this and say, how do I harness this cloud operating model, this self-service capability, to be able to provision and deprovision workloads quickly? So I see folks looking at that and saying, let me look at this holistically from an economic perspective. What do my business units need? And then how do I build the enterprise architecture? How do I build the technology behind it in many cases? So that when I mean by that cloud operating model, I definitely don't look at cloud as a place. I look at cloud as a way of delivering services. So, even at Dell Technologies here, we have what's called digital cloud, and it's what front ends 90 data centers for us, even in the public cloud. And we have many different hypervisors behind that. And we don't necessarily care, me as a procure, I procure things from digital cloud. I don't care what's behind the scenes.
Right.
And so they can swap out the technology behind the scenes without me knowing it, placing the workload in the right place for the right reasons. That's a cloud operating model to me. So we do that a lot with our customers, saying, okay, we understand the hypervisor is kind of the precipice or the tipping point for a lot of this. What do you want to do from a business perspective? Let's look at it from a financial perspective. Let's build that front end for you, which generally becomes a cloud management platform or internal development platform, to help you give that self-service and automate a lot of those things. That generates a lot of cost savings. And then we can look at the underlying architecture. But let's start with those business pieces. I also think, to pivot slightly, artificial intelligence is driving a lot of modernization in IT as well, because when you think about AI is a cloud native workload. So it depends on things like Harvester and Kubernetes. And customers are looking at that saying, I don't know a lot about that. And so it's harnessing it, not all customers that have adopted cloud native modern architectures for software are already doing that. But I would say they're the minority in many customers rather than the majority in many customers. So, sorry, I went a lot of different directions, but if I had to break it down, where do we start from a business perspective? Let's look at it from a financial perspective. Let's understand how we build this cloud operating model for customers that take into account all of this. The cloud operating model, and since we did all the financial work, allows customers to then place workloads in the right place for the right reasons. So whether that's public cloud, whether that's using SaaS, whether that's using whatever, and then we can look at the underlying architecture from a hardware, software, hypervisor perspective. And I think that's where SUSE and Dell work really well together. We've helped a lot of customers. I know you have an AI strategy. I know the multi-Linux support. I know you're going to talk about that today. I think that's really awesome, and I think customers will be really enthralled by that from a cost savings perspective. And then what comes next for many customers. So I went off on a tangent, but I think that I really try to tie the business side with the financial side, and then the underlying architecture that really enables customers to have choice. All of that, if you can, I think IT was bad at quantifying what we did, and I think you got to get really good at that because of all the complexities and all the interdependencies of all these different applications and the underlying architecture. So I flipped the question on you. What does SUSE sing?
What does SUSE say about all of that? Go.
That was a quick run-on. I'm
right?
sorry.
No, it's fine. So, I mean, you mentioned people don't really care necessarily what are the bits and bytes, right? They just want to know that their product is going to work, that their application is going to load, that they're not going to have problems with their technology. Mm-hmm. You think you have it hard. Try representing a free operating system. Linux we are very in tune with that concern or lack of concern, I guess, that customers have, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. It's either proprietary or open source. So if you lean into open source, as long as everything is working and running, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Then when you have a free operating system, and there's not hundreds, but there's tens of different flavors of Linux that anybody can download onto their system and work on, put into their sandbox, put into production, and it's going to work. I mean, we've proved that after 30 years that open source does work. So when you have such a chaotic environment, talking to the IT directors or IT professionals, they're in a bit of a pickle. Like when you go in, and I know Dell does this a lot, when you go in and you look into, or you ask someone, what is in your environment? And you get blank stares.
True.
You get a list of 3 things, and you're like, okay, you're a multi-million-dollar company. You've got more than 3 things in your tech environment. The same thing happens for operating systems. Mm-hmm. So you just continue to accumulate all of these different flavors of Linux. And what SUSE has done, because we recognize that, right? We are open source first and foremost. We actually love just Linux. It doesn't even have to be SUSE's enterprise Linux. Yeah. We just love Linux. So what we did to essentially help combat that is we created a multi-Linux manager. And we literally manage over 16 different flavors of Linux. And again, it's open source. So if you want to get creative, I've actually talked to customers that have, they're managing over 5 unapproved Linux distros with multi-Linux manager because they were able to tailor it to their very specific needs. So what that does for that environment and for the actual technologists is they're able to see their environment. They're able to understand where all are the vulnerabilities, what does need to be updated, what needs to be deprecated.
Mhm.
And so as reflected onto the business, now you can see what's going on. Now you understand what's going on and where you can potentially save costs, or maybe where you need to take some budget from Peter and throw it over to Paul in order to make your environment as optimized as possible. And SUSE is just such a cool company because not only did we do that with Linux, but we've also done that with Kubernetes. Like we have our own flavor of Kubernetes, but with Rancher Prime, I mean, you can literally manage just about any flavor of Kubernetes that you have running in your environment, because we really do understand the importance of heterogeneity within your environment. You know, we've all seen tons of different examples of what happens when you do get locked into that singular stack, just one grain of sand, right? And the whole thing will crumble down. So we know that people have started to diversify and we applaud it. We super promote it. Just like you were talking about multiple different hypervisors, right? Very rarely is someone all in on one and not leveraging, you know, some disaster recovery with the other. So we wanted to make sure that our tooling was interoperable with what you have in your environment. So you don't have to change it, you just add it, and it honestly, it makes life a lot easier.
What does that do from, I'm ad-libbing.
No, that's fine. I hope that we do.
Yeah, no, right on. What does that do? Like, let's talk about a case study, like a physical customer who has that complex environment, who needs that support. What did that do for them from a technological perspective, and what did that do from a financial perspective for that customer?
Yeah, so like I said, so one of our largest case studies, or our most popular, you'll hear us talk about it a lot, is Deutsche Bank.
Yeah.
So we recently did a multi-Linux support deal with them. And the whole idea, so we have multi-Linux manager and multi-Linux support. Together they do make up what I call our multi-Linux suite. So with support, we're actually, as we do with manager, we're supporting multiple different flavors of Linux. So again, we are not asking you to migrate. We're not asking you to change your OS. It's the OS. As long as it's working, who really cares?
Yeah.
But we're able to come in and completely streamline that support process. So instead of having to call, you know, 3 1-800 support numbers, you now just have to call one.
Yes.
So it super streamlines, simplifies the support process for your operating system. And ultimately what this allowed Deutsche Bank to do was we are also saving customers money with support and manager. Yeah, so we have, you know, vowed to support our multiple different Linux distributions at a discounted rate to what you are probably currently paying one of our main competitors. So what that does for our customers is with that budget, you're then able to reinvest it, which is exactly what Deutsche Bank is doing to this day. They haven't agreed to be a customer success for their other modernization, so I can't get too far into the details on that. But they were actually able to take that found budget and are starting to look further into cloud native. They're starting to look further into, okay, how can they optimize their operating systems? And I think that's really honestly where the partnership between SUSE and Dell can be such a good position to be in, because we both know money is tight. I don't care who you are, where you are. Everyone is trying to cut their budget. Everyone is trying to count for every single penny, but that doesn't mean innovation stops.
Correct.
And so working together, we, SUSE, can help your customers find that budget that's required to help them modernize.
Yeah, and I think a lot of companies too are trying to streamline the number of companies that they partner with. And so if I heard you correctly, you know, number one, you're helping them manage their different distributions of Linux. Number two, you're streamlining where they go for support. Ergo, they're saving money as a result of that.
Yeah.
Right on. And so any other examples you want to give?
I'm trying to think. I'm sure we've got tons of them. So SUSE does also have SUSE virtualization. We are not a one-for-one comparison to other large virtualization companies that are out there in the world. But we can take away a portion of the workload. And again, like and I hate harping on this, but I know that this is such a pain that a lot of people feel, is that when we're looking at that vendor lock-in and you have your entire stack stuck with this one person, you lose your negotiation power.
Yeah.
right? You don't have the ability, if they decide to do a 500% price increase,
Yeah.
you don't have the ability to put your foot down and to stop that from happening to you as a company. So what do? Virtualization is a part of our world.
Yeah.
You pay the bill. Like
Yeah.
there's no other option. Except there is with the virtualization.
Yeah.
We're able to take on some of that workload, and in the end, saves our customers tons of money.
Yeah, and we're going to be, that's one of the big things that we're launching at Dell Technology World with SUSE. I don't think it's a secret. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't think it's a secret, but we'll be doing some, SUSE virtualization with our Dell PowerStore capabilities. Yes. And I want to mention it. We were at SUSECon a couple of weeks ago. And we got Solution of the Year, so thank you for that. We Absolutely. Appreciate it. Appreciate the partnership. The big key things that I heard at SUSECon this year. We've talked about AI a little bit. If you want to mention anything more about that. Rancher, Harvester, virtualization, AI workloads that are cloud native, and then Edge is another big one. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to talk about on those fronts too, from a saving money perspective, from a choice perspective, from a lock-in perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing with Edge is that SUSE allows you to deploy anywhere, wherever you need to. I was a part of a customer call where they were wanting to deploy SUSE at the bottom of the ocean. So, there's like anywhere that you need us,
yeah.
Whether it's a very large installation or very small installation, and I do mean technically like actually large or physically very tiny, SUSE can fit to exactly where you need it. So you're not stuck in the parameters that would require your Edge to be a larger solution than you need it to be or than you want it to be. Also, we're able to take up a lot of much smaller compute space with our SLE Micro. So you're able to have your operating system, and it's not going to take up so much of the compute power that you have. Yeah, which is very important at the edge, right? The whole point is there's not a lot of space there.
Yeah.
And honestly, our AI is relatively new to SUSE, but it's really cool. We're doing some really awesome things with it. And I think the coolest thing and the biggest differentiator is we're not creating AI.
Yeah.
We are not building a product for you to buy. That's not what SUSE AI is about. Yeah. We've built the platform. And so exactly what I was talking about earlier, you're able to plug in each and every piece exactly as you, the end user, want it to be. And if you decide at a certain point that, part 3B is no longer top of the line, there's another option that you want to use, you're actually able to plug that out and put in the best use technology. AI is constantly changing. It's as worse as it's going to be today. It will never be as worse as it is today, right? Like it's constantly growing and moving and changing. So when you as an end user are implementing an AI solution, it's so important that you're able to be agile. Otherwise, you're just going to be using technology that in the AI sphere is considered to be, decades old, even if it's only a couple months.
Yeah, no, Edge is a huge area for us as well.
Yes.
And Jamie, hopefully you got some questions coming in. If you have questions, please throw them in there. We're almost to Q&A here, so we want to use your time judiciously and appreciate you being here. What was I going to ask you about? Oh my gosh. The AI piece, and I think a lot of customers are struggling with what's the use case. Like they want to do it, they just don't know what the use case is. And again, I think from a SUSE and Dell perspective, we've got the AI factory, and we can plug in a lot of the different technologies. To your point. And I see it too. Again, if you have multiple distributions of Linux, I see an opportunity for how can I streamline operations? How can I streamline that support capabilities as well? Anything else you want to talk about?
I just think kind of to go back to the AI piece about it, when you're looking at AI, and if you as a company have decided you don't want to worry about it, you don't want to use it, you can't figure out how it makes sense for your company, your employees are using it. Mm-hmm. So if you are not getting ahead of it, if you're not building your own, large language models and making sure that the information and data is staying within, then your employees are using the free, the free chat GPTs or GPTs of the world, not to call any singular one out. And we all know if something's free, that you are the cost. It is your data that they are charging.
You're training their large language model.
Yes, exactly. So it's very, I think for that instance, specifically for AI, it is important, even if you don't see a use case for it, to work with someone like Dell Consulting. Mm-hmm. Talk to the Dell team, say, hey, what are people doing with AI that I could do for my environment, regardless of what vertical you're in, whether it's finance or retail, manufacturing. There's definitely, SUSE alone, like we've created several large language models within our company. And the whole point is to make our information better, easily searchable for our internal employees. So like we're talking like HR questions, like broad, larger questions about marketing campaigns and product. Like we've all put those into different large language models that are now searchable. And you know, like especially when you're dealing with the legal, you don't really want people to you don't want your chat to get too creative with it. So you can adjust the creativity level so you know your people are getting the right responses.
And good answers, it's something that I know you can create it, but you got to continue to train it.
Yes.
You got to continue to get that data. That brought up another question in my mind, because I know this topic came up at SUSECon too, which was security. We talked about AI and the data and holding on. I see that more and more in a lot of these conversations is I want to know where my data is. A lot of what we train AI on is the intellectual property. It's the value of our organizations. So, you know, from a SUSE perspective, I know security is also a cornerstone in what you're thinking about. Anything you want to add in that regard?
I mean, just that it is one of the main cornerstones. I mean, I don't know if y'all have seen, but a lot of the changes that we made around Rancher Prime was that we've actually incorporated security into the product. So now you can see all your vulnerabilities within your Kubernetes stack, which is very important. SUSE or our SUSE Enterprise Linux alone is I'm not going to say the best, because I know someone's lawyer is going to come after me and I don't have the stats on hand, but we are truly, like, when it comes to securing a secure OS, we are in the top. We are playing with the big dogs. Even if you've never heard of SUSE before, we are there right with them with the exact same security certifications at the same levels and the same tiers. And that's the coolest thing about open source, right?
I agree.
The nature of open source is that it's more secure than proprietary, because you have a community that's all working on these solutions before anybody even realizes that there's a problem.
No, and you have a great brand in you know in the ecosystem, I believe.
I'm literally just now thinking, I'm so mad at myself. I should have brought a little chameleon.
You should have,
because we have a really cool logo. If you don't know the SUSE logo, it's a little chameleon named Geeko. Don't ask me about the name. I wasn't there when we selected it.
All of my kids have stuff.
Yes, they're so kids love them.
Yes, absolutely. So, Jamie, any questions that have come in so far?
Yes, we have a few. So the first question is, where can I find more about Dell and SUSE collaborations?
Oh, right on. Easiest way to do this is infohub.delltechnologies.com. Infohub, all one word, .delltechnologies.com, and you can just search for SUSE, and all of the Dell validated designs, all of the collaborations, everything that we do are published there. So you can see all the different co-engineering that's gone into different products, what's there now, what's coming in the future, etc. Hopefully we have more opportunities to do things like this as well. And if you're at Dell Technologies World, SUSE of course will be a part of that. There'll be some sessions there as well. So if you're interested, that's another way of getting engaged.
Awesome. And we have one more question. I have a lot of Linux distro. Where can I learn more about multi-Linux support?
Oh, so sorry. I feel like we talked a lot about AI. AI is such the hot topic these days. So with multi-Linux support, I mean, it's available on SUSE website. So if you just log on to SUSE.com and SUSE.com and search in our products, it is right there, right under multi-Linux manager is multi-Linux support. And I don't want to underscore its value and the importance that it has to the industry these days. Like I said, with multi-Linux support, what it really is doing is you're just shifting your support from your current enterprise Linux provider over to SUSE. There's no migration, there's no changing there's no like massive changes that you're going to have to take to your environment. It is literally just switching over the repos. It's that easy. Everything that SUSE produces is backwards binary compatible. And when it comes to like any security patches or anything like that, depending on the severity, we will get it out to our customers as early as day of to as late as 5 days. So we have like a really tight operation around that. And again, our whole goal with that was to ensure that our customers realize that there are options, right? And we kind of touched on this a little bit, where choice is so important when it comes to technology. And so again, like when it comes to SUSE Multi-Linux Manager, we're not asking you to change your OS. It's the OS. Keep it where it is. We just want to help make sure that your environment continues to stay supported, but also helps you, our end user, our customer, leverage the found budget that you will have from switching over your support provider to being able to use it to what we know you need to do, modernize and innovate. I know that all of y'all are out there thinking about these very obtuse modernization or innovate strategies that, you know, your company has, your company wants to modernize, they want to innovate. But when it comes to actually putting, you know, money where your mouth is, this is how you find that money.
Yeah, easier said than done sometimes, but
Oh my
I think
gosh,
this is an easy one. So Jamie, let me know if you have any questions, but you know, I think to summarize, if I had to step back and like what we talked about, you know, cost savings was a big one today, streamlining, innovating, like you had mentioned, agility for organizations, and how can we do that? That Dell and SUSE partnership, you know, from a Dell perspective, we're there to help consult, we're there to help to understand your greater business, not that SUSE is not, we can do it together. We can understand the financial impacts. We can look at the kind of the tipping points in the market, which right now are, I want choice and hypervisor alternative. AI is a big one. How do I kind of harness all of that together and then make good decisions from an investment perspective and an underlying architecture perspective together to deliver that? And I think that kind of brings the, you know, to a close. Anything else? Any other observations that you would make?
I mean, no, I think you did a really good summation of it. I do love the partnership that SUSE does have with Dell because I do think that it's such a natural fit. I don't know if you're aware, but I did used to work for Dell.
Well, welcome back.
Right, exactly. So it's just been, but it's been really cool to see things from like the software perspective, especially with SUSE, where we have such that strong message together about how important it is for our customers to be able to choose what is right for them. Anytime I've ever had any, you know, product or any service that someone has asked me to present or to sell, it is always a good idea, but I always think of it as a starting point because not all companies are going to fit into that singular hole.
The box.
Yeah. So being able to promote and to support end users in how they have had to design their environment, I mean, that's just something that is so near and dear to SUSE. And I love that it's something that is so near and dear to Dell as well.
It is. I think we have a great partnership in many ways. I think we're, you know, the way we engineer together, I learn something new every time I go to SUSECon, and the partnership and the strength of all the collaboration that went into SUSECon impressed me. I always learn something. So thank you for having me. Jamie, anything else before we close?
Nope, that was all the questions. I think we are all set to close.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Appreciate it. Thanks all.